What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again. I am Shredlord.
Necrotic Nick.
And we are here to bring you another excellent album review. Today we are listening to tech death metal legends Allegaeon with their brand new offering for 2025, the Ossuary Lens.
This also comes out on the 4th of April on Metal Blade Records. This band formed in 2008 in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is their 7th album overall. I believe Shred and I have reviewed both Apoptosis and Damnum together.
Yes, that is correct.
And for me personally, I've been listening to this band since their debut, Fragments of Form and Function, which I thought was just absolutely kick-ass. And that's kind of the gear that this band is perpetually on, like super consistent across the board. Their brand of progressive, technical melodeath, they really have like a sound that they have made their own, even though like you can definitely make comparisons to a ton of different bands. Hell, I've even called this band like Jeff Loomis melodeath. Like it feels like, you know, the stuff that Jeff Loomis does in his solo albums, but with just ferocious melodeath riffs everywhere. I love this band.
Yeah, I didn't really get turned on to them until I heard their cover of Subdivisions.
Dude, that looks ass.
And it was so good that I was like, I gotta check this band out and everything that they have. And yeah, they are an excellent band that is able to not only execute their instruments on a high level, but they're able to compose songs on a high level. And not every band can balance that.
Yeah, these guys don't ever really come across as too like wanky or showboaty. Everything serves the song, but at the same time it's still very technical, very lavish. And this band actually welcomes back an original member. Their original vocalist Ezra Haynes returns to the front since Riley McShane departed in 2022. And I was pretty curious about this one because since Ezra's departure, this band has definitely progressed their sound into more progressive territory. And Riley definitely had like a lot of different vocal dynamics that he brought to the band, namely his awesome clean vocals. And I was kind of wondering how this band would adapt because I didn't figure they would like abandon that. At the same time, Ezra, I don't think he was really ever known for doing clean vocals. Like a lot of it was just his like mid-range growls and deep roars, which were effective as hell and still are. But there were definitely some questions that I kind of wanted answered listening to this, and I think I got my answers.
If Greg Burgess, the guitar player, is involved, which he will be, of course, I have no worries about the guitars or the composition of the songs. Greg Burgess is S-tier guitar player on a lot of different levels, and also seems to be an S-tier composition as far as songwriting goes, the way he's able to blend that stuff. So I wasn't worried about the guitars or the riffs or the drums or the bass. I was really worried about the vocals because, like Nick had alluded to, Riley McShane really brought some interesting dynamics with his clean vocals. So how would this new guy do if clean vocals were presented? And in fact, they were. The album kicks off with a beautiful track called Refraction. It's kind of a nice, moody, exciting classical guitar. And it appears to be a little foreshadowing as to what would be coming throughout this album. Even in times reminding me of some of the Jeff Waters lick, a la, Crystal Ann from Alice in Hell. It was a nice composition, but it wasn't too long. And boom, right into the track Chaos Theory, which starts with this beautiful big-ass arpeggio lick right into the chaos.
I mean, it kicks off pretty much how I expect this band to. Like lots of stampeding drums, intricate riff work. It's driving, but it's also, again, tuneful, melodic, but like brutal. Like they really worked this great balance between keeping these songs like fiercely heavy, but also like loaded with catchy melodies. Lots of angular riffs. You get like blast beat sections, good breakdowns. Like they pretty much run the gamut in one track of kind of what you're going to get on here. And kind of like baseline what their sound is, but there's definitely some more surprises that come along because I feel like this album, melody may have got pushed back just slightly in favor of like some slightly more brutal tracks. Like when you get down to songs like Dias Ray and The Swarm, which The Swarm is an absolute banger, and if you've seen that music video, it's absolutely awesome. A lot of people getting shanked with beer bottles, but they're notably a little bit more brutal. Lots of like big syncopated hefty chugs. Still tons of like shreddy lead work left and right. Like man, when it comes down to like the lead trade-offs in here, these guys have it down to like a science. Their lead trade-offs are as smooth as their riff changes on here, which the riff changes are smooth. That's what I'm alluding to. But there's definitely like a little bit more bite, a little bit more ferocity, like some stuff that kind of like carries back to like some of their earlier albums, like Form Shifter, where they were still just kind of like gnarly as hell, but again, like they would still pepper in enough melody to keep it catchy.
Now, we reference foreshadowing in the opening track, and the classical or flamenco style guitar, whichever you prefer, really does play a dominant role in this album, but in a very creative way. And no track better demonstrates this than the track Dark Matter Dynamics, which is easily one of my favorite tracks on here, and Nick would absolutely agree. It starts off with a very upbeat flamenco, and then it kicks in with the heavy. But what's cool about it is, although the verses are still there kicking in heavy, the flamenco and the clean guitar never goes away. It's part of the song as well, and that kind of adds a really cool sound to that mix.
Yeah, like the entire time, you know, when the heavier guitars came in, I thought, like, are they doing like a slap bass thing, but like just in like a higher register? I was like, no, the acoustic guitar is still there. And in most instances, like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many tracks I've heard that have had like an acoustic lead in that gives way to like heavier guitars. That's a trope that's like everywhere. But hearing it continue throughout the entire song and hear it like contributing to the melody itself, like it's not buried in the mix. You can hear it like very well, even through all the heavier guitars and the roared vocals and such. But it's doing all sorts of crazy, clever stuff. Like there's a lot of that slap guitar where you're doing like the percussive hits on it. When it started, like, I almost feel bad for writing it now. The first thing I thought was like, this is like Dave Matthews? But then I was like, no, this is a cooler band. This is like Yes, because they've covered Yes, and they did a brilliant cover of Roundabout. But as it went on, I was like, dude, this really does kind of feel like a much heavier Yes, because they were really good at blending acoustic and clean guitars early on.
And that whole dynamic gives this song one of the most unique feels on this entire album. Definitely. The track that follows, Imperial, starts off with that flamenco guitar again, and you almost feel like they're going to try that trick again, but then they stop it. And I'm kind of glad they did. I even wrote it in my notes. I'm like, I'm glad that they didn't try to do it again right in a row. You know, they teased the flamenco, but then went back into the main bulk of the song. They didn't really, you know, try to keep it there as far as like just repeating the same trick, so to speak.
And that song stays like super heavy throughout, like just nasty, savage breakdowns throughout. And there's a couple of other interesting wrinkles that show up, like Dies Irae. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't care.
Right.
Way more like blackened and evil. Like this is probably one of the first times you hear a big shift in Ezra's vocals, like going from like deep roars to this more blackened scream, colder riffs. It's a little bit icier. There's not a lot of moments in here that feel flat out evil. Like there's tons that feel brutal as hell, but evil is a different sort of like vibe, and this song kind of captures a little bit of that. Honestly, right from the rip, it's kind of got like a symphonic black metal lead in, or symphonic death metal, like, you know, Septic Flesh or like Dimmu Borgir and stuff like that. Like it sounds grand, it's a little bit orchestral, it sounds evil as shit, and then it just takes off and throttles you. And that's kind of how a lot of these songs lead in. Like they throw in something kind of clever to open it up, like, you know, a soft synth opening like Driftwood, or a really epic kind of doomy build-up like Wake Circling Above, and then they get into like kind of like the bulk of the song.
So from a composition standpoint, if you look at this album compared to their last, like Nick was saying earlier, it seems to dial back some of the melodicness a little bit and some of the epicness, but it doesn't all go away. Yeah. They keep just enough of it there, but the blend was really, really solid. This band is always A+. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Whatever the kids are saying is the bomb these days. That's what we used to say, the bomb, whatever.
The shit.
The shit. I definitely believe that these guys are one of the better songwriters in metal. And what I mean by that is they have dynamics in their songs, which the song never feels stagnant. You know, it changes paces, it changes moods, it changes vibes. And that can be dangerous because it doesn't work all the time. You know, the more things you add to that mix, the more potential you have for going wrong. But they do a great job of juggling so many different inspiration sources and pulling them together in a way that is fluid. And I guess the main point I'm trying to drive home is, as technically impressive as these songs are, and usually always are from this band, the songwriting is just as impressive. It's not just, look what I can do for 45 minutes. It's, look what I composed for 45 minutes.
Like a lot of this feels like labor intensive, like in terms of like structuring their songs and in terms of like how they flow. I really like that about this band because, I mean, yeah, they could totally showboat. They have the talent to showboat. And, you know, like when it comes down like the leads and some of like the cool transitions, it's a little showboaty, but it's not so much that it, you know, takes away from the song where they're just like, you know, wanking.
It's not his fault. He's awesome.
But with a focus more on like songwriting rather than like just showboating, I feel like that is going to be like more appreciated overall. Like Carried by Delusion. That song is different in the sense that it is more shimmering and more epic. Like you get a lot more atmosphere than I really think I've heard from this band before in that song. Lots of bright riffs and like more atmospheric strumming, like, you know, that kind of like pleasant dissonance. And that's good because it contrasts a lot of the heavier tracks like Scythe. Scythe, despite starting off very slow and, you know, kind of somber, you get some like clean bellowed vocals to start off. I was kind of ready for a dirge at this point. And then all of a sudden it just takes off. But man, like as ferocious as the riffs are, and they are like machine gun fast, you get a lot of these like halftime grooves, and I'm a sucker for those. Like instantly my head starts banging and just like ferocious chugging. It's just a vicious, gnarly song and kind of an interesting closer, honestly, because the song before it, Wake Circling Above, it's the longest song. It's easily probably like the biggest song in terms of like the crescendos, the melodies, and like it's literally one of those songs where you can say like, yeah, they threw everything in this one song and like, yeah, this is the grand closer, but it's the second to last one.
And even though we've talked a lot about how they would mix in like certain classical guitar elements and stuff, or like moody this or somber that, having those tracks like Scythe or even the track Imperial, which once again has a little flamenco start, but for the most part it's pretty raw and right to the point, or even Driftwood. Some of these songs are just kind of just straight to the point. You know, not every song is overdone or over lavished. There's a few of them on here that are just kind of more brutal, straight to the point, and that really helps make the other ones pop more when they do dive into the more expansive sound.
And the longest song on here, it still isn't like 7 minutes, which, you know, that's a relatively tame song length for a prog band.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that with Ezra's coming back, there was, again, that concern about, like, clean vocals, because I didn't think the band was going to abandon clean vocals since they had done them really well. And Ezra has a great roar, a great scream. You know, he's the guy that I initially got into. I feel like some of the cleans are a bit hit or miss. Driftwood was the first single that I heard on here, and while I like pretty much everything about that song, like the main riff in it has like a fierce Rivers of Nile, like Black Crown Initiate vibe. They throw in a clean chorus, and I have to say, like, it just feels off. Like, it's very processed and very layered, and I don't know if, like, the melody necessarily fits. It feels like it's forced in there for the sake of having a clean chorus.
Yeah, there were definitely moments on here, maybe about 3 or 4 times where the clean vocals really got pushed through. Driftwood felt a little bit over-processed, or sometimes it felt like maybe the vocals were sitting lower in the mix for a reason. And other tracks on here regarding clean vocals, Wake Circling Above has it's almost like he's just kind of speaking with an alien effect on.
I kind of like it. Like when that big epic build-up comes in, like it's grand as hell, and then it shrinks back down to these haunting dark melodies, and he's just got this raspy, almost like alien bug sort of effect. I don't know. I like it. It sounds creepy as hell.
They weren't overdone though either. I will say that. There's a few moments where there's some clean vocals, but they didn't try to like really push it down our throats. It was done selectively, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, honestly, like between Driftwood and I think Wake Circling Above, I don't think there were any clean vocals. So most of this is still very harsh and very just like in your face. And generally that's kind of how I prefer my melodic death metal anyway. You know, it's very sparingly are there bands where I feel like, yes, clean vocals are absolutely necessary with this band style in terms of like melodeath. And to his credit, I do think the clean vocals on Wake Circling Above were a little bit better than they were on Driftwood. It feels like something they're going to work on in the future, but it wasn't something that harmed the album overall because the album was just flat out enjoyable once again. Like, this band is consistent as hell. I have been a fan since their first album, and there isn't an album that they have put out that I haven't liked, and that includes this one. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This thing is a ripper. I kind of like the fact that it is a little bit more aggressive. Like, they're not distancing themselves that much from the sound that they were kind of like working towards on Damnum and on Apoptosis. But I do feel like this one is A little bit of a throwback to their earlier albums, which, man, I jammed the shit out of like Form Shifter and God, what was the other one in between there? Fuck. Either way, I jammed the shit out of their first three so damn much. And this kind of has that vibe again, but with like a little bit more creative flair in terms of like the riff writing. Greg Burgess, the dude's a fucking awesome guitarist. Like the guitar work in here is ridiculous. The drum work in here is ridiculous. There's really cool bass work too. Yeah, across the board, this just kind of checks off everything that I like about this band. And yeah, if you're a fan of, God, honestly, I would say like, again, Jeff Loomis. Like there's just an air of Jeff Loomis about this, like especially his solo work. And I don't know, like just really aggressive, technical, melodic death metal. I don't know, like there's really not like a huge group of bands that sound exactly like this band. But I'm still going to recommend the shit out of them. Just check them out, trust me.
Absolutely. If you like your metal heavy, precise, and kicking ass, this album is absolutely for you. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 as well. Being a whore for guitar, Greg Burgess is an absolutely underrated guitarist in the metal community. He is a fucking phenomenal talent. I think the reason that maybe you referenced the Jeff Loomis stuff is because the guy can pretty much execute damn near anything incredibly clean on a guitar. He's immensely talented both as a writer and as a guitarist, and what's great about him having that combo is he's able to play you great stuff and not have it bore you to death. There's plenty of technical musicians out there who can play anything as well, but they'll bore you to death. This band has found a way to inject all of their musicianship and their songwriting skills in a way that can deliver the best of both worlds, and that's what I really appreciate about this band.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we'll probably do one towards the end of the month, and who knows what we'll talk about. It'll probably be something stupid, but...
Wieners.
Yeah, no, probably likely that. Like, that always comes out, farts, poop, hey, you know, just the usual dumb shit that we talk about outside of metal. Anyway, memberships are the main way to support the channel. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below. And, of course, right above that is a join button. And you can hit that and join the Thralls people. I don't know what we call you guys. But we would appreciate it if there were more of you. So if you would like to join, the button right there, smash that shit.
What we call you is friends and family, which brings me to the most important point of this video. Thank you, the viewers, for spending your day with us. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what we have to say and talk about all things that we all love, which is metal. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we can't tell you how much we look forward to making this content for you. So, on behalf of my metal cohorts and I, we will catch you later.